Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Newsagent podcast. I'm Susie Lysett, Senior Content Executive at Goodlord, and today I'm joined by Sarah Wycherley, Senior Lettings Administrator at the independent estate and letting agents White & Sons. So thank you for joining, Sarah.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at teamwork, its benefits, how to get it right in an agency context. I know that a lot of agencies out there, they've had to deal with changing processes, especially during the pandemic, with remote work throwing up some opportunities as well as some challenges for agents. But I do think that the importance of teamwork, it really came to the fore throughout that whole process. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But Sarah, obviously you're here to help me to share some of your insights and your experience around that. But first of all, perhaps just to kick us off, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about your background, perhaps, and a little bit about White & Sons, if that would be okay.
White & Sons have been around for 200 years, so we're well known in the Surrey area. In terms of lettings, we do a fully comprehensive service, so we do managed service, let-only service, and a rent-collect service. We have about 380 managed properties, 280 let-only ones, and 52 rent-collect. We're all based in-house, so we're all in one office, which is really fantastic for team working. I've been with White & Sons, so I was with White & Sons for 2 years, and then I left and I actually returned, which I think is a pretty good indicator of what a nice company it is to work for, and I've been back for about 2 years now.
Well, that definitely does give a good indication, I suppose, when you go away looking for new opportunities and then decide that the place that you're already at was a good place to come back to.
Definitely. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, and I definitely am happy with my choice of returning, hence why I've been back for nearly 2 years and I'm definitely not going anywhere.
Well, perhaps that's probably a really great place to start then, actually. I mean, what was it about White & Sons in particular that made you want to come back?
There's definitely like a family vibe to the company, and especially in our lettings team, we're a proper little lettings family. We all care about each other, and it's such a lovely vibe to work in. You know, when you come to work and everyone's happy to be there, and we're all sort of chatting with each other. We want to know how our lives are outside of work, which makes it a really nice environment to work in. I don't think there's ever a day where I ever sort of dread coming to work. It's nice. They're almost like they are like family, and you're seeing people you like every day, which makes working so much nicer.
No, it's true. I guess that, whenever you can come into the office and just know that you're going to get on with the people that are around you, then it definitely would make it much easier.
Definitely. And we sort of keep that sort of family theme running through. So that's definitely a nice place to work.
Yeah. You've already mentioned that that you all kind of work in-house and I believe in one office space. What's kind of the makeup of the team overall? I know that obviously you're on the letting side, but how big, how many staff members are there, and what's the division of work, as it were, between you all?
Yes, so we have 2 full-time negotiators, and they're in every day, sort of going out, getting business, doing viewings, putting the deals together, and then we have some part-time people just sort of to fill in the gap, so that we've always got lots of people on hand to do viewings. And then you've got myself on the admin side of things. I progress all of the tenancies using Goodlord. I do the renewals, sort of the midterm sort of variations of contracts and sort of checkouts and things like that. And then we've got our property management team, a team of 3 very lovely ladies who deal with all of the maintenance issues, gas safeties, EICRs, boiler breakdowns, all of those side of things. We're all based in one office all together, which works really nicely because you can bounce ideas off of each other. You can chat to each other. You overhear things. You know, if someone's saying something about a property management might be able to interject and say, well, hang on a minute, actually this is happening. It's being redecorated, or the toilet's not working, but it's being fixed, which, you get a much quicker sort of turnaround time for things. You don't have to call people. You don't have to look at our system, although our system's fantastic. You can just talk, and it makes everything, the response time, a lot quicker.
And perhaps let's go back a bit. I mean, you're all in one office during the pandemic. I'm assuming that you moved to more of a remote working setup.
Yes.
What kind of impact did that have on the team? If you know that you enjoy all working together in the office and all of that exchange of ideas and so on, how did that change that dynamic?
Yeah, it definitely changed it to begin with. I think it was hard to adapt to. Luckily, we had sort of just gone paperless just before the pandemic. I think if that hadn't have happened, it would have been much harder. I think property management would have been taking something like 3 filing cabinets worth of files home. So going paperless was definitely a bonus before having to work from home. But yeah, you have less opportunity to discuss everything with each other. There's far more delayed decisions. Once you kind of got your head around that and it became not the norm, but you got used to it, it definitely got easier. We kept up our morning meetings on video calls. We have those every day, regardless of whether they're video calls, whether they're in person. We go through sort of what everyone's working on, what the diary holds for the day, and just general chats kind of keep us all as a team and working together. And they're fantastic so that everyone knows what everyone's sort of doing. So we did those via video call, and they were definitely really handy to be able to consolidate the team back together every morning again. But yeah, it was definitely a big change, and it was hard, but I think we got on with it quite well. And I don't think our service to landlords was interrupted, because we were able to use our system and the notes that we put on our system. I think that we remained being able to work really well for our landlords and for our tenants. It was just harder to have that same team vibe, I think.
No, it obviously sounds like you put in the effort to kind of maintain that, well, the vibe, as you say. That
yeah, definitely. We have a group WhatsApp, and you can we send messages on that and things, so you can sort of keep it up as much as possible. But it's never going to be the same as when you're all working together in one office and having a bit of banter in person.
True. So does that mean then, are you back to all of you fully being back in the office every day? Is there any kind of hybrid working in there, some days working at home? Did you bring any of that and keep any of that from during the pandemic?
Not really, no. We are all full-time back in the office. I think it's how we all prefer it, to be honest. We like all being together. As I said, we are a little family, and it's nice all being together and it's bouncing ideas off each other. It's definitely far better doing that all in the office. I mean, if there's circumstances that mean someone has to work from home for a bit, then that's absolutely fine. We now have the resources, we can do that, and it works, but we prefer to be all in the office together.
Yeah. No, well, I guess it's nice when, if that is what everybody prefers, then that makes sense to continue that. You know, some companies, it might work better to be in a hybrid situation. Others, like yourselves, obviously, being full-time back in the office obviously isn't detrimental to how you work or against anybody's wishes, I suppose. I know that you've already mentioned some benefits really of everybody being in the office, just that kind of exchanging of ideas and that kind of that proximity to each other and being able to overhear conversations and things like that. Are there any other specific benefits that you see from all being in that close proximity at all? For example, between the sales and the lettings team, for example, does it make easier to kind of join up and have conversations between the two teams together?
Yeah, definitely. If our sales team have a property that's sticking on the sales market, they can come straight into our office and say, oh, what's it worth? You know, I'm going to have a chat with the landlord about renting it out. Can you give me a bit more information? And there's just that instant communication. We can give them a response, we can give them a price, you know, or we can have a call with that vendor. So yeah, it's definitely having the sales and the lettings together is really helpful. When sales team are selling a property that we've been letting out, we obviously have quite a lot of the information. We hold the gas safety certificates. So from sales point of view, you know, we can provide a lot of the information that conveyancers want for a property, and it's a lot quicker on that side of things. So yeah, it's definitely handy having sales and lettings in one building. And in terms of lettings, I mean, landlords can come in and they can see the negotiators who are doing the deals and doing the viewings. They can see the admin team who are maybe doing something like a new agreement for one of their other properties. They can see property management all in one hit. They can come in and they can have all of their issues solved because we're all here. They don't have to go, I'll come into this office and see this person, but you have to phone for property management because they're in a different office. We're all here. And if one person can't solve their problem, generally speaking, someone else in the office will be able to.
No, it's great having that kind of that coverage, I suppose, being able to help in any situation.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess on the other side of things, purely because, as I say, some agencies do prefer the hybrid model, for example, and obviously some other agencies, they may work across multiple offices and things. Do you see any challenges? Are there any, sort of downsides of everybody being in the same office? Playing devil's advocate
possibly, possibly our coverage. I mean, we're based in a town called Dorking, and we cover quite a few local areas. I suppose if you're spread out to different areas, you have a lot more coverage of marketing, of taking properties on further away. So that could be sort of beneficial. I guess if you're doing property inspections, you can again then do property inspections that are for properties that are further away. I guess there are definitely advantages and disadvantages of both, but we find that this works for us. So yeah, we like all being in one office.
No, that's fair enough. And I presumably in terms of the coverage side of things that, well, hopefully anyway, sort of technology solutions and so on has perhaps helped you to have a bit more time freed up so you can potentially cover more areas and things as well. So it doesn't just mean that all being in one office means that things are restricted, I guess. It's
exactly,
yeah. And it seems to me then that saying that teamwork's important is one thing, but it does have to be something which it's quite hard to kind of put together a team and just assume it's going to work. You know, it's something that kind of has to be worked on, or at least you've got to understand that everybody clicks in the first place. I mean, how does that work? I mean, has everybody in the office been there for a long time? Is that company culture something that's been worked on, or is it just something that's kind of naturally occurred?
I think it's something that's naturally occurred. I mean, the people that are currently here have all been here sort of 2 years plus, range from 2 years to sort of 8, 9, 10 years. So yeah, there is a bit of a range. When it comes to recruitment, we're all quite involved in the recruitment of a new person. So whoever they're directly working with will sit in on the interview to make sure that you sort of you get along with that person. You have the same sort of personalities that work well together. We make sure that they're introduced to everyone, and we have group chats about if there's a new person, about who they are, so that to make sure that the person coming in definitely suit the atmosphere that we have.
It is good that you all have that input if somebody new joins the office.
Yeah.
Does that happen regularly? I mean, is there a time recently where, or did you have to recruit anybody during the pandemic, for example, where obviously it was a bit harder to meet people face to face?
Not during the pandemic. We've currently got a couple of vacancies that we're recruiting for. So we're getting CVs in. One of them's for another administrator to join me, and for a negotiator to join my colleague James. So yeah, we've had sort of CVs in, and our manager Deborah will sort of throw them across to us. What do you think? Do you think we should meet them? So at the moment, yeah, we're doing face-to-face ones. There's been a couple of times that we sort of do video calls if someone couldn't be for an interview face-to-face at a time when we're all in. We then have a follow-up video call so that they can meet the team, and we can sort of make sure that everyone gets along.
You mentioned earlier that you obviously have some part-time staff working as well. How does that work? Because obviously it is quite interesting that in the lettings industry, or the property industry at large, I suppose, it obviously has quite a lot of seasonal peaks and troughs and things. So presumably you have people perhaps joining the team. Do you just to support during some of the peaks? Is that how it works as well?
Not so much. We have sort of our part-time people have been here for quite a while. We have Jill, who works on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday for us, and she's been here for a long time. She's very experienced, and we don't generally find that we need to have more people in the peak of the time. We do just keep a regular employment, really.
That's great then. I mean, obviously, if they're just part-time and they're there to support throughout, then that's also
it's great because they can sort of jump in and out. It doesn't necessarily. So she's a part-time negotiator doing sort of viewings and things like that, but she will jump in and help on any other bits that we need. So it's quite versatile.
Yeah. We've already mentioned the fact that during the pandemic, your customers didn't see any negative effects, as it were, of you all having to jump on moving to remote work and so on. But how do you think they perceive it? The fact that you have such good teamwork within the office, that you have such a good dynamic between how everybody works. Aside from the fact that there's always somebody around that can answer their questions, I mean, how does this feed into the service that you then can provide your landlords and your tenants? Obviously.
I think it really helps because we all know what each other are doing. So I can overhear what James is talking about, and then if a landlord calls but James may not be available, I can sort of take the message and understand, and I have an understanding of what they're calling about. So they're never calling to reach someone who just literally is saying, "Oh no, I don't know what you're talking about," or "I can only take a message." Generally, we can sort of overhear what someone's talking about, and we can get the gist and help them out a bit as much as we can using our system. So I think I think it works quite nicely. They all know that we know each other, and I think that we provide a good service based on that.
And do you think that landlords, and again just your customers at large, do you think that they buy into a company, an agency that has that good company culture? Do you think it helps in terms of attracting landlords to you as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they can see the benefit of a good team and working together, because it means that everything happens smoothly and swiftly because we all get along together and there's just a smooth motion of everything happening. I definitely think that a landlord likes having everything in one building because they know that they can call and speak to one person and another person, or they can pop in. And yeah, I think so.
I suppose that is actually quite an interesting perspective, because I know that, obviously, good Lord, we talk to a lot of different agents, and some of them say that they're moving away from like the office-based process, I suppose. Landlords and tenants prefer not to come into the office quite as frequently. Do you think that that's something that your landlords and tenants still appreciate, having that shop front, I suppose, that physical place that they can visit to come in and speak to everybody?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have quite a few sort of older landlords, and they definitely appreciate the fact that they can come in and talk to us if they can't get along with whatever technology. If, good Lord's electronic signing is super easy and it's fantastic, but, some of the older generation don't necessarily feel particularly comfortable using that. And I think that they like that they can come in and we can help them and we can do it face to face. I think a lot of them see quite a lot of value of face to face things still. I think tenants actually less so. We definitely get less tenants walking through the door and less applicants walking through the door. So that's an interesting divide. We still get landlords coming in, but not necessarily quite so many tenants.
That is interesting, actually. I mean, what would you say that your typical tenant is? I mean, are they, you mentioned that there are perhaps some slightly older landlords who might prefer coming in face to face. I mean, are your tenants relatively young in comparison, or what kind of profile do they tend to have?
Yeah, I think slightly younger tenants versus landlords, definitely. And I think the fact that we're using Good Lord, the process is so easy. It's such a simple process to go through. They actually don't have to come in with any questions. They don't have to come in and sign. So it means that there isn't actually any need for them to come in anymore because everything just does happen so smoothly.
I mean, it is interesting, that kind of juxtaposition between using technology, but I guess that within your team, you obviously do have quite a good conversations between yourselves, but it must be interesting to see how tenants are moving more on to preferring technology and perhaps not wanting to come in face to face, and sort of balancing that. It'll be interesting to see in the future what the role of the team might be. It does need to be maintained to be able to do your job in the best way, but perhaps less of that face-to-face interaction with customers may come out of it in the long run.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's knowing that we are here. If they don't need us face-to-face, they don't. But if they do want to come in and they do want to talk to us, we are here. And we're never just at the end of a phone. They can come in if they want to. And I think it's a nice option for them to put a sort of face to a name as well sometimes.
No, it's true. As you say, having that option for them there, and the fact that it obviously works for your company to have everybody in the same space. It sounds like you have found that right balance.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a nice balance between, we use technology to the best of its advantages, but we're also here in person if they need us. And I think it's a nice balance to have that.
Yeah.
I think it helps us provide the best customer service that we can, because we can help in every single way, whether it be over the phone, via email, face to face. It definitely gives us a lot of versatility.
Yeah. And perhaps just to round off our conversation, I mean, in terms of other agents who are looking to build a better team mentality, sort of build up their company culture, what kind of tips might you have for them?
Always cake.
That seems a good tip.
A very good tip. I think it's just making sure that everyone's happy and checking in with people and making sure, workload's not too much. And if it is, what can you do to help with that? Is there anything that can be shared in terms of workload? And I think it's just getting the balance of people and personalities right. If anything, you've got to have people that get along, because if you have people that get along outside of work, they would get along inside of work and work better as a team. I think it's just making sure that the team work well together so that you can get the best possible outcome for the landlords and tenants.
No, and it's a very good point that you make about sort of workload, I suppose. For everybody to work well as a team, everybody's got to be efficient at their jobs, but obviously making sure that they can balance their work-life situation and things as well. So if everybody does chip in together and make sure that they can share any burdens, especially as we head into the summer, which is traditionally that particularly busy time. No, well, I think those are a couple of great tips. So it's obviously recruitment in itself is very important, just making sure that you do get the right people on board on those initial stages, and then continuing to support everybody, I suppose. But it doesn't necessarily just have to come from management. It means that everybody in the team should chip in and just support each other. I think that's a
Absolutely.
good, a great tip to share with agents out there. Perfect then. Well, Sarah, thanks ever so much for joining me today. I think it's been an interesting conversation. I think that agents out there that are looking to create that sense of that team vibe within their agency, whether they are in the office or whether they're, remote working, as obviously you had some tips there for when you moved to remote work to keep that culture going. I think there are some great tips that they can take from this conversation. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.